Why setting obtainable goals is important, coming up. Hey guys, it's Travis Vroman, and today I want to talk about setting attainable goals and how that is super important when it comes to development. And again, this is one of those topics that doesn't necessarily limit itself to game development or development in general. It sort of applies to all aspects of life. So setting goals for things is super important. Whether you set life goals, saying, I want to make X amount by the time I'm 30, or I want to be able to buy a new car when I'm, in the next 6 months, or whether it's, I want to get out of this job that I'm in and be in a new job within the next year, or I want to get promoted in the next year, something like that. Whatever it might be, setting goals is super important because you need to have goals in life that you can achieve to make you feel better about what it is that you're doing, so that you can look back on it and say, you know what, I set that goal and I achieved it. That's awesome. However, there is a danger with setting goals, and one of the biggest things that can be dangerous about setting goals is setting unobtainable goals. It's setting a goal that is just so far out into space that it's just totally not obtainable. An example of this might be, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 18. Now, for some people, I'm sure there are people out there who have done that, and congrats to them. That's awesome. But for most of us, that's not really an obtainable goal. It's not something that is going to be reasonable for most people to achieve, especially by such a young age. A more attainable goal might be something like, I want to buy a house by the time I'm 30. And obviously there are things that go with that, right? There are variables that go with that. So the assumption that I'm making in this example is that you're not 29 and completely broke and about to turn 30 in 2 weeks. Obviously that's not a realistic goal at that point, but let's say you just graduated high school, you're 18, 19, you've got a job and whatnot, and you started saving money. At that point, that's a completely reasonable goal. Saving money for a house is something that you can do over the course of a few years, at least enough to be able to put a down payment on the house, and establishing a decent enough job to be able to afford a house or an apartment or whatever it is that you set your goal to. Setting something like that is something that is attainable. And sometimes there are circumstances in life that come at you and get in the way of achieving your goals. And sometimes you can't achieve those goals, or maybe you achieve them late. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes achieving a goal late is better than not achieving it at all. But the idea is, when you're setting goals, you can't set a goal in such a way where there's a 100% chance that you'll achieve it, because no matter what that goal is, there's always some chance that there's some wrench that gets thrown into your situation where you may not be able to achieve it. But if there's a reasonable chance that you would be able to achieve it, let's say 80%, 90%, what have you, that's a valid goal to set. If it's something that is like 4% of you achieving it, 4% chance of you achieving it, that's not a very realistic goal. And so it's sort of learning to define and where those boundaries are in terms of what's attainable and what's not attainable. And the importance of setting attainable goals is that you can actually meet them, or that you have a good chance of meeting them. Because when you do meet them, that's very motivating for you to set other goals that you then want to meet. It's a very good, solid way for you to improve your life just by setting attainable goals. A sort of subpoint of this is I like to set short-term attainable goals. And long-term goals are fine. There's nothing wrong with having long-term goals. But short-term attainable goals are better because they tend to be a little bit closer to the ground, where you can see the end, the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. And they tend to be things that you can achieve rapidly in succession. And the benefit of doing that, again, is to sort of get that dopamine hit when you actually achieve that goal, saying, wow, this is awesome. I've accomplished this goal. Now let's move on to the next goal. And then you accomplish the next one and the next one and the next one. And then you can look back and say, hey, you know what? I've accomplished these last 5 goals. I think the next 5 are doable too. And you just keep going at them one after one after one after one. And the benefit of that is that each time you do that, it's renewed inspiration to keep continuing on your path of achieving your goals. And missing one once in a while sort of becomes not as big of a deal if you have more short-term intermittent goals set. Because if you have 10 goals, for example, and you meet 9 of them, that's a 90% success rate. That's pretty good. There's nothing wrong with a 90% success rate. That's pretty high. A lot of things in life aren't anywhere near that high. So if you had just set, say, 3 goals and met 1 of them, that's a pretty poor success rate, right? That's 33%, 33.33 repeating. So the motivation factor isn't as strong from completing that 1 goal because there's more that you've failed than you've accomplished. And so having more short-term goals allows you to get maybe smaller achievements along the way, but it's constant motivation to keep pushing forward and keep achieving those things, because it's almost like collecting things in a game. That's one of the reasons that collecting games are so popular. It's something like gold farming in an MMO, and WoW specifically. A lot of people like saving up massive amounts of gold and watching the gold in their account go up and up and up and up. It's just a natural form of success that's looked upon. So that's really all I have on that. So set attainable goals, but more importantly, set short-term attainable goals. I'd love to hear from you guys on what some of the goals that you have set, and if you guys use some short-term goals, and how you use those and what those goals are. And I'd love to hear some of those stories from you guys. So leave me a comment below, like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.